Okay.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. I call the meeting of the Deep Creek Watershed Zoning Appeals Board to order. Let you know that the board is appointed by commissioners and we serve at their pleasure. We're paid a nominal fee to participate on this board, and our findings are governed by the Deep Creek Lake zoning ordinance and established zoning law. This is a quasi-judicial hearing where we will hear the request from the appellant. Those in opposition will be permitted to speak following the presentation of the case. Then the appellant will be given an opportunity to rebut. At that time, testimony will be concluded and no other statements will be given. This evening, at the conclusion of each case, we will have an open period of discussion and conduct a vote. This evening, we have a quorum of 3 members, which will necessitate all members voting unanimously to carry the vote. We're permitted to take 10 days to render a decision. In most cases, we'll have a final decision this evening. If any party is aggrieved by our decision, you'll have 30 days to file an appeal with the courts. Ask you guys to turn your phones off. By way of introduction, at the end is Michael Beard, my buddy Bob, and Bill. I'm the co-chairman. The chairman's out of town, so you're going to be at my mercy tonight. All right. I'm going to ask you to step up to the microphone so they can hear you on the broadcast. And
I'm going to present you guys with each one. I don't know if you gave me the copy I sent today.
They do have a copy of all of that, yes.
You want to read it?
all right. I'm going to have to swear you both in, and we're going to take testimony from one at a time. Good. Okay.
And let me announce the case too.
Okay.
This case being heard by the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Appeals tonight is an application submitted by Deep Creek Lakeside Properties, LLC, for a variance to allow the construction of a single-family residence to within 23 feet of the front and rear property lines. The property is located at Highwood Drive, Oakland, Maryland. Tax map 50, parcel 677, lot T, grid 21, and is zoned Lake Residential 1. And
Any letters in?
we've not received any,
Right.
just make sure.
I'm going to swear you in one at a time, and we'll take testimony from each of you separately, okay? And then if we have some...
Whatever he's saying, we're good.
Okay, very good.
Well, that's what it's on.
Okay, ask you to state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Rich Nalvabanco, and my address is 1 Tremont Lane, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Okay, Rich.
5211.
All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the statements you're about to make to the Deep Creek Watershed Zoning Appeals Board to be the truth? So you swear or affirm?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Tell us what you'd like to do, please.
Okay, I'm the owner of Deep Creek Lakeside Properties, and Wally, aka Jason's my son-in-law. He's my builder, so I'd like to defer to him to explain this.
Okay, that's great. AJ, we'll just have to get you sworn in the same manner.
Yeah.
You state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jason Wally Sherraw, and I live at 3019 Gray Fox Circle, Pittsburgh.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the statements you're about to make to the Deep Creek Watershed Zoning and Appeals Board to be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
The subject property is Lot T, Duncan, Patent subdivision located in Highwood Drive, McHenry. Deep Creek Lakeside Properties would like to request relief from the typical required setbacks on the subject property located Lot T, Duncan Patent subdivision located along Highwood Drive in McHenry, Maryland. The property is located in the Lake Residential Zoning District. The subject property was created for single-family usage and existed prior to the current zoning ordinance adoption. We are requesting 2 variances to be built within 23 feet centered from the front and rear lines. The dimensions of the lot, the dimension of this lot is 178.44 wide along the road and 84.0 feet deep. If the typical required frontage and setbacks are applied to this lot, it would only leave a 4-foot, 0.04 deep building envelope, which is not reasonable to build a home within. The geometry of this lot creates practical difficulty, hardship, and need for relief from the typical requirements to reasonably use and build a home on the lot. The lot is also significantly smaller in size than the minimal lot size required for new lots within the LR1 zoning district, which adds to the practically difficult hardship and need for relief. The granting of this variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning appeals process. Would not be ingenuous to or alter the character of the neighborhood. Will not impair adequate light and or air adjacent properties. Will not impair views from adjacent properties and will not be detrimental to the public welfare. We feel that granting this variance is necessary for a reasonable use of the lot, and that the variance is requested is a minimal variance that will accomplish this purpose. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Wally. We'll have some questions for you there, bud.
Sure.
And you'll need to stand up at the mic so they can hear them. Thank you for the plat and the layout of the house. That's always helpful. How many square foot?
It's going to be, the first floor is 22 by 22, and it's a 13 by 13 offset. So it's very small.
Mm-hmm. And you have no issues with your side setbacks at all, correct?
Not at all.
I see that you have a 5-bedroom plan?
Yeah, it's going to be downplayed to 4 now.
Okay. Because I was looking at your parking plan and was going to point out, although
Yeah.
that's not our purview, it would be
Yeah.
necessary for you to have that in line. So 4-bedroom and not changing the square footage whatsoever. Okay. We were out at your property today, and you described it very well between the slope of the property and the building envelope, allowing for a hallway. We don't know where the hall's going though.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah. I have no other questions. Gentlemen?
I don't have any questions either.
I don't think I do either. I looked at the plat. I actually went out yesterday. Are you going, just out of curiosity, is this going to be a year-round home?
We believe so, yeah. I think it's more traditionally like
I'm just kind of curious as to what kind of vehicle you're going to have in the winter.
well, you know, what's funny is we got contacted by a 3-star general to buy it. He really wants it, so hopefully he's got a tank to get around.
Okay, I have no questions that pertain to your request for the variance. The plat's clear and
Appreciate it. Yeah, Samantha did a great job with it.
yeah.
At this time, I would usually ask if anybody wanted to speak in opposition or in favor of, but I think we know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
With that, we'll close the testimony for now and we'll have our deliberations. You guys are welcome to stay and listen and wait for a verdict.
Wait for
Our verdict?
Yeah.
On what we're gonna do.
Oh, okay.
Any conversations or make a motion?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve based on approve the request for the variances because the lot, I think they're doing the best they can with this, considering the size of the lot. It's rectangular, which is pretty straightforward, but it's very narrow and long. And having been to the site, this is not going to have any, I don't think, have any negative impact on it because there's so much land there. You know, any negative impact on future residents, so they'll be far enough away. That's my opinion.
I agree, Bob. I think it's harmonious with the neighborhood
Yes.
in which it's in. I don't think he's staying very reasonable with the size of the home as well.
Sure. Yeah, so I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Thanks, guys.
I'll see you around. All right, John, I'll see you when you come for the permit.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you very
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yep.
That is definitely
That was like,
one of the houses that we've looked at, you know, that is gonna be one of the toughest ones to get to. Jesus.
yeah.
Here we go. Hi.
Excuse me, my friend called me and she said a lot of people are coming to this meeting. They thought it was at the college.
Right.
Yes.
And so they're on their way.
Don't
We're,
worry.
we're holding procession, we're holding
Okay.
I
prior.
apologize to you. I mistakenly in the advertisement there.
Well,
So-
I live here in town,
Okay,
and so she called me in a panic.
okay.
So I said, I'll rush up. I was doing lawn work, so I apologize.
No worries. Please have a seat.
Well, thank you. I just took off. I need to drink water. You have a
I think
fountain?
there's a fountain out there. The ladies' room is back there if you want to. Sorry. If we have viewers awaiting the second hearing, I would just like to say that we're going to be on about a 15-20 minute break here due to a advertisement on the location of the hearing on my behalf, and I apologize for that. So bear with us.
Well, this is great.
We're still on the live on the internet.
We are. Yeah, I've got to keep
No, I
it
can't see.
on. I think I hear some arrivals.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
that's good. 20 minutes to get her to the car.
Hello?
You have a write-up of what's happening?
So take a seat up there in the corner.
We have our own copies.
Oh,
But yeah.
Yeah, no, people are pulling them behind me, so,
there.
You left them in the dust, did you?
Coming,
okay.
yeah.
Did you get a feeling of how many folks were over there? Like how many cars maybe?
I kind of go, I don't know that place very well, so I had a janitor show me where the auditorium was, and there were about 5 or 6 people. There were a couple right behind me, so
Okay, all
I
right,
don't know.
thank you. My deepest apologies to you all for,
At least 4.
okay.
So there's more than that.
okay.
There's more than that, that I know for, they called me in a panic. So, yeah.
Well, we came from there too.
Oh, okay, good.
Who wants to use this for the original buildings over there?
I would think that that was well after that.
Really?
I believe those buildings have been there at least since my arrival here in 1997. I think that whole setup over there has been there that whole time.
Am I the only one that's presented, or is there another appeal?
No, we had
We
one-
had the other case
We already had
already,
the
so
other
it
case,
gets-
got it out of the way, because it
So
was,
is it just me left?
Yeah.
Alright, let me
Because
hear
it
it,
was-
it's alright, I brought some stuff, it's okay.
Yep, they all have
Yeah,
those.
I'll just get it in front of you, just so.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. This one. You already saw that.
no, I didn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass around a notepad here in a second to get you all to sign in, so I know who all is handy here.
Not bad? Huh? Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Probably not.
Place your name and, on there, so I'll know who all is present.
There you go. Give it too much credit.
Hi. All right. Hello, you saved us. Thank you so much. Are you really saved?
Well, I'm really not staying. I mean, it's not about me, is it? No, it's about.
You don't-
Everybody else.
You don't, if you're not intending to stay, you don't have to call it. If you would put just a name, so I know who all is
We didn't know
present.
how to get hold of you guys, so I called her.
I appreciate that. My deepest apologies, everyone. I do a lot of cutting pasting on those letters, and I forgot to change the address of the hearing.
Well, and also technically, that's what was posted on the public notice.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I don't know who might still be going there.
There's a jazz practice there right now, jazz rehearsals there right now.
So if I
Ken
could,
stayed for a little while, so one people.
if I can just get you to put your name on, to let me know who all was present, then we'll move on. Thank you all for participating, and again, my apologies. Well, I know Bob Nickel already because he's on the.
exactly what's going through my mind.
We all came running. I saw a couple people pass us on the internet. I thought they saw it.
That was lovely. We're
Were you in the white car? Yeah, I saw. Yeah, he was behind us that.
Is this yours or is this Bruce's? Is this yours or Bruce's? I think that.
That's all mine, yeah. So I just wanted to give you all a chance to have a look through.
That's curious though, that this letter dated January 11th, why?
I think they were trying to show that there was opposition to something else that had happened back there. I just got that like at 4 o'clock, so I don't know.
Because they make a comment in there about the land is already clear. And I didn't notice.
Well,
any
that
evidence.
is fairly well cleared. That was probably all completely forested at one point in time.
Sure.
So,
We made it too.
okay.
Or the county tonight.
Ken said, I told Shane and somebody else. Oh my goodness. When I saw the message on Facebook, I
For those of you that were over at the college, do you feel that everybody that was there has arrived now?
Not long enough to see. No, because we left, when we heard that it was down here.
Right.
We got in the car and went, and Ken, our both stayed there for anybody who came later.
Okay.
So there's probably additional people showing up, you know. 'cause
Well,
it
Ken's
takes-
still on his way, and there's one other person that he saw after he was, yeah.
You guys don't drive to go. Interesting.
I had to hitch a ride.
I haven't stopped and looked at the public news.
I wish I had.
I was gonna say, we could have carpooled.
Yeah.
We thought about it.
Get a bus.
Want to stay with the decision about table vote?
I would just play it by ear. See if there's any at all contention, I will, we should, yes.
Because if we're going to, I'd like to make that clear from the outset. All of your meeting.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's say we're gonna, for comment. Okay.
Sorry, I'm not.
Is that a sign-in sheet or just a sign-up sheet for speaking?
It's a sign-in sheet.
I have one creator, and that's it.
Gentleman here in the center gets it signed.
Well, I signed it, but no, I'll just arrived.
And Ken's on his way.
Ken's on his way. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bruce, did you get copies of the emails? Did they come through?
I've got, 20 letters here. Yeah, thank you.
And I didn't know if you needed anything from tonight, or we're just gonna say what we wanted to say, or do you need anything?
Well, what I would strongly suggest is that everyone stick to evidentiary information when you, if and when you testify, and that's it. Yeah. So, not anything you want to say, but anything that is pertinent. We want to go ahead and move forward. Do you think we have everybody now?
Ken's not here, or one other.
Still two more coming that we
You should
know.
read the roll here.
Okay, let's give it a couple minutes more.
parking lot, eh?
Yeah.
Newly paved, that is.
Newly paved, yes.
Looks good.
Thanks.
Mountaintop?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
We started on Arrowheads, we'll finish it next week.
Yeah.
On Wednesday. Just needing to be addressed.
Yeah.
Helping with, it's already benefiting us from the rain we've had.
Oh, yeah.
With the runoff is much more controlled.
Yeah.
And going to where the lane seems as opposed to just everywhere.
It did our driveway at our home back in 2013. They did a great job. And then we had a new neighbor, new guy and his wife bought a home and moved in. And he was in the paving business, and he suggested we consider doing tarnship for the road. It's really rural, so that would suffice. And they came and did that, and it's held up really good so far. Good job.
They do really good work. Matt, of course, worked under the village of his father for years, and Mike worked for his dad, so they passed down a lot of knowledge. Considering where the circumstances I had working in, they really did a nice job of controlling the traffic and understood my concerns about wanting to stay open and trying to work on their schedule of how they were going to do salt cuts and things like that. We're going to keep this lane open before you work on this area, open it up and move back. So the access points will be great. Just really well thought.
What's your schedule now as far as
Monday, we're 7 days a week.
Good.
And 11 a.m. to 10. Starting next week, we'll go to closing at 11 on Fridays and Saturdays.
So you've got staff for
Still hiring, still training, but at least I'm getting applications this year. I haven't seen applications for 5 years. People are coming back out.
How are they living?
Incredible.
We have a new house. Donnie built our house. We took occupancy in July 2003. So we're going to So last year, they replaced the well pump. And they found the wire had frayed. So it was a good thing I chose to do that. I didn't have to do it, but I'm one who believes in preventive maintenance because if it's going to break, it's not going to be a convenient time for you.
No, it isn't. Yeah, it's going to be in the middle of a snowstorm where those wires.
So then I reached out to Eric Germain, and I had we had a new furnace put in yesterday, and new central air conditioning unit. So we've got big things that have been done. So hopefully, when we can live out our years there,
Get another 20 years out.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, folks. Thank you all for participating. Once again, I want to, for those of you that just arrived, my deepest apologies for the inconvenience of the advertisement for the location. Thank you for participating, and I'll go ahead and announce this case as special exception number 505, an application submitted by St. Moritz Properties LLC to allow the construction of 6 additional indoor boat storage buildings. The property is located at 686 Harvey Peninsula Road, tax map 59, parcel 560, lot 17, and is zoned Lake Residential 1. And I believe Mr. Bob Nickel is here to present that case.
just to fill everyone in, we'd already called the meeting to order. We had one properly addressed hearing prior to you all arriving. Just to bring you all up to speed, this is a quasi-judicial hearing where we'll hear the request from the appellant. Those that are in opposition will be permitted to speak following the presentation of the case. Then the appellant will be given a chance to rebut. At that time, the testimony will be concluded and no further statements will be given. This evening, at the conclusion of each of these hearings, we would generally have our open discussion and conduct a vote. Given tonight's unique set of circumstances, the board and the administrator have agreed that in consideration of everyone's time and efforts to be here this evening, we'll go ahead and have the hearing. But for those who may have been left astray or did not have an opportunity to be here to present testimony, generally we have a 10-day waiting period for our hearing or for our verdict to be announced. We're going to allow for a 10-day period for any further comment, and we'll table our vote until next month's meeting. I think that's as fair as we can be. We want to be considerate of the times in your schedules, and at the same time, not waste your efforts to be here to testify. But in keeping with Maryland Sunshine Law, we have to give 30 days notice of this hearing and allow people to be here that, again, may not have caught on with the group that was able to get rallied and get over here. And with that, the last thing I'll say is this evening's final hearing is on a special exception. I'll remind everyone, as Mr. Metz had said, we'll take testimonies on both sides. We'll ask that you please stay to the ordinance. We are governed by the Deep Creek Lake zoning ordinance and established zoning law, and that's all we're going to conduct our considerations upon. And with that, we will hear the case. Bob, you're going to be presenting?
Please.
If you would. Yeah, we are broadcasting on Facebook, so if anyone is testifying, we'll ask you to step up to the microphone to speak clearly.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Nickel, General Manager.
Hey Bob, I'm going to swear you in first.
Oh, okay, sorry. Never done.
Do you solemnly swear, well, let me get your name and address for the record, please.
Robert Christopher Nickel, 610 Pin Oak Circle, Mountain Lake Park, Maryland.
Thank you, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony, the statements you are about to make to the Deep Creek Watershed Zoning Appeals Board to be the truth? So you swear or affirm?
I did.
Great.
Okay. The reason I'm requesting this exception is we currently, for those of you that don't know, we currently have a location off of Glendale Road that we have 5 storage buildings at, that we truck a lot of the boats up. It's about 3/4 of a mile from our facility. 4 of these 5 buildings were built anywhere from 1964 to 1967. The boats were constructed for 8-foot beam, 16-foot to 18-foot. And we are no longer selling those boats pretty much industry-wide. The beam's 8'6", and what we're seeing on the lake is 22 to 24 feet. So they become obsolete. And it's been happening. I saw this on the horizon probably 6-7 years ago, but we were able to facilitate what we had there to keep our current customer base happy. With that being said, it has gotten to the point that we can't. Last year we reached the capacity point, you know, and mind you, we're not taking on any new customers. If you haven't purchased your product from us, we're not storing your boat, we're not working on your boat. We're not looking to grow and increase business. We're just trying to keep what we have, keep our current customer base happy, and enjoy being a good neighbor, etc. With that being said, if I were to tear down the 4 buildings, I'd have to go in front of special exception again anyways. To reclimate, tear down, rebuild, the expense would be a lot more expensive than what the property I have, or we currently own on Harvey's Peninsula. It would just be excavation, a lot of, and then the construction from there on out. Some of the benefits about it, folks, I think everybody's probably concerned it's going to increase the traffic on the road. If anything, it's gonna decrease it. I mean, currently, we store 283 boats up there, okay? Of the 4 buildings, there's 219 of the boats. And, you know, we figure we go up, come back in the fall and spring. It's gonna be roughly 483 less vehicles on the road, trailers on the road, forklifts on the road. Keeping everything centralized there. And mind you this, you know, the forklift operation there, everybody's concerned about that too. When I construct these buildings, we're gonna put the boat away, it's gonna stay there until the spring, and we pull it back out. You're not gonna have cars and trucks running around that bend, believe me, I've been aware of it for quite some time. So everything's gonna stay centralized. And it gives us the benefit, I mean, it's 195 man hours, roughly a year, to move those boats to and from, $16,000 to $18,000 in just expenses. This is talking from a business standpoint. Insurance, extra cars, liability, everything there. What I'm looking to do is just keep everything there. We're at a capacity that I can't handle more than what I have. And over the past couple of years, it's decreased, but we've stayed somewhere between 940 and 965 on the boats. It's like you would think, it's cyclical. A lot of people that are moving off the lake, they sell their boats, disappear, we may get new customers. And all I'm looking to do is take care of those customers that purchase their product from us. Currently, I'm not saying 10 to 15 years down the road. Right now, I can't get the staffing to really take care of my customer base as it is. So it's been an ongoing policy for the last 2 to 3 years. You know, if you bought your boat somewhere else and you bring it in here, sorry, we can't handle it. So what I'm looking to do is, from a business side, is centralize everything. We used to, years ago, we used to store boats at the fairgrounds, similar project. We built 3 buildings on this property, roughly 2011, 2012 is when we were in front of the appeal court. And it made business life a lot easier, a lot more efficient. I'm looking to take care of my customers. You know, on average, that's 195 hours that my guys can be centralized there, put a boat in the water instead of asking for a 3-week lead time to get boats out. Again, I'm not looking to get another 1,000 boats. I can't handle it. And we can't handle it there, equipment-wise, whatever. And these 6 buildings, you know, I think I've given you everything there. You've seen the site plan. Number 2, I'm sorry. Number 2 is just the general blueprints. These were from 2012. Folks, I'm not changing the blueprint. It's the same size. That site plan. Some of the buildings are a little smaller, so I could utilize all the space. They're similar. The buildings or the structure are going to be the same. Aesthetically, I'm going to keep them the same color green. I'm going to plant the pine trees. I'm going to do what it takes to accommodate everybody as best as possible. I think we're very fair out there. We may have some incidents, and I apologize, and I would ask anybody to ask for me if there's any kind of issues. I run the place. But again, I'm not looking to get another 1,000 votes. I can't handle it. We just want to keep the steady pace that we have. And I'm not, you know, I've requested to build 6 buildings. Obviously, I want to have that. I'm not going to be able to throw all 6 of those up from the financial side. It's going to be quite an expense. But I'd like to build 2 to 3 and try to get the other ones started so the permit doesn't exceed. And then when we're all done, we're all taken care of. My goal, openly, is to stay away from Glendale. Stay away from having the truck traffic coming to and from on Harvey's. There is one building that was built in '93 that's up there, but I can assure you I'm going to fill all the buildings I can down on our main property before I put anything up there. But it is a very viable building. In the long run, if it's, I got enough there for what I have, I'm not even going to go up there for that building. But that's all I'm asking for. Nothing more, nothing, and I promise you, we're not looking to boom and go crazy. We're just looking to keep what we have, take care of our customer base. We do store a fair amount of boats up there because we still have several, roughly, you know, not 283 because we got some going down the middle, but we still have several, probably 180 to 200 smaller boats, but they're disappearing fast. And then what I did show you, folks, you can see the buildings. That's just the front picture, the old rafters there, and they're in need of repair. I'd rather not waste the money and repair those and invest it as a business into something more viable for a profitable situation. And then lastly, you saw the buildings, the current buildings, all of you guys are familiar with them. They're all the same color, same everything. That's my game plan. I guess that's about it. If you guys have questions.
Yeah, I think we probably do, Bob.
Okay.
First, what about your hours of operation?
Currently over there, when the season hits, we're 8 to 6, and that's 7 days a week. That generally doesn't happen till after Easter Sunday. That's when the big boat out push comes, and we're pretty hot and heavy, as you can imagine, especially this week. This is the heaviest week with people requesting to have their boats put in. But our service department is open 8 to 6 from Monday after Easter through Autumn Glory weekend. Once we get the boats tucked away, it's 7:30 to 4:30, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
You addressed one other question that I had already, and just to reiterate, we all know that dock slips are about done being issued right now. So my first curious question was, what in the world do we need all this additional boat storage? So you're looking to relocate from other properties and get away from.
I'm just wanting to
centralize your
I'm
operations.
just trying to keep the customer base I have. Because what's happening is some of the older boats, those folks are moving off the lake, selling their homes, getting rid of their boats. Then I got a new customer coming in, and they're buying a boat that's 22 to 24 feet long, give or take. There's a length restriction on the lake. And it's been pretty steady. We lose 25, we pick up 25 or 30. My numbers, if anything, have decreased over the last 4 to 5 years.
And the capacity at this yard?
Oh boy, off the top of my head, I would have to get you some firm number. Each building can hold 48, the static, the standard ones. There's a couple smaller buildings. Combined, we stored 955. I guess if you do the math and you take out 283, so you got 700 and some change, or 6 in that facility right there. But ultimately, what I would really like to have is have everything right there. And it's going to be somewhere between 900 and 955 is what I say. Now that includes watercraft too, which don't take up a lot of space. So that number's there.
Gentlemen?
Well, when I was at the site, what concerned me was the increased traffic, because we got very bare bones in your package of what you wanted to do, so we were sort of left with just speculating what it was you really wanted. You sort of clarified a lot of that for me, that you're not expanding, you're just moving existing facility down there. It does make sense to me that traffic may in fact go down, because that was my primary concern. There's only a few things that we look at for special exemptions, and the one that I thought was the problem area was the traffic. But your testimony is that there will be less traffic because you're not taking boats from spot A and putting them.
Location to the other.
So I appreciate that you clarified the question that I had before I even got to ask it.
Bob, I'm just looking at distance from the road on a couple of these, and what I've got is about 42 foot for one of the proposed buildings and 43.6, so say 44 feet the other. Okay, and you mentioned in your presentation that you had planned to yeah. So you're going to do your best to screen.
Right off, where I would probably put them is more so on the roadway, so it blocks your vision as close as I can. Mind you, I am using an engineering firm. It's Century Engineering Guarantees. Unfortunately, he couldn't make the meeting, so that's why I'm on him.
Gotcha.
But we are abiding by stormwater management, fire marshal, zoning, whatever you're supposed to do, we're going to do it.
And the buildings that are proposed, these are strictly for storage as opposed to maintenance.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the picture on there, they're all single stack buildings, so
Yeah.
you can't really do anything in there, just other than put a boat in there and pull it out.
Right.
And they will meet all fire marshal with the alarm, and, you know, I'll have electric running to them, et cetera. I have spoken to the fire marshal about it.
Good deal. That's all the questions I have.
I'll just follow up with what, on the heels of what Michael said. We did discuss the traffic, and again, just going on what we were presented with, try to speculate what the additional would be. And our worst case fear was at home. You're gonna be doing daily, where people don't have the docks, you're gonna be putting them in daily.
We're not allowed to do that here. We're not allowed to do dress.
We weren't aware of that.
Yeah. That's permitted in certain areas. We are not permitted at that facility. Yeah, again, folks, it's gonna decrease the traffic. I know everybody's thinking, oh my goodness, and I agree. I see it. You know, the fear factor, my employees coming through their accidents, liability for you as well for me. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to alleviate that, especially for those people that are living right on that corner there. It will exponentially decrease traffic. It's gonna take time as I build the buildings, but I can assure you, in my honor and my word, I'm gonna fill those buildings first before I go up there, just from an efficiency and a, you know, accountability side.
All right. If the rest of the board doesn't have any questions, I'm good. Does anyone present want to speak in favor of the proposal? Right. Have a seat, Bob. I'll just remind everyone at the end of all the testimony of those of you who want to speak, Mr. Nichols will be given a chance to step up to rebut anything. And anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the proposal? I'm going to ask you to step to the microphone, and I'll swear you in, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony and statements you're about to make before the Deep Creek Watershed Zoning Appeals Board to be the truth, so you swear or affirm?
I swear.
Great. And your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Judy Carbone. I live at 871 Harvey Peninsula.
Great.
I actually have two things that I would like to share in two different testimonies, if you will. One is recently our community did a survey of our residents to see how many people would support the proposal and how many would oppose it. Many of the folks in this room completed the survey, many who aren't here tonight did. And I did send Bruce a copy of it, but I do have a copy that I'll leave with the board tonight. Basically, we had 49 voices on that survey. All of the names are at the end of the survey report. Even though there was an option to say they approve or they do not, they oppose the option or the exception, 100% opposed it. And of the 49 voices, they represented about 30% of the properties. And so I think it's statistically significant that those voices be heard. The majority of the concerns centered around, I'm sure you'll hear them tonight, safety of the residents and visitors, environmental safety, maintaining our residential property, and the aesthetics and the property values. And I believe those are all considerations that the board should take into consideration. There was one other thing that, although I talked about it with Bruce a little bit, that I thought it was important to put into the record, which is that lot 17 that is owned by the St. Moritz properties is a Harvey's estate lot. It is under covenants that say that it must only be residential building on those properties. I've got a copy of the covenants here. I understand that that may not be in your purview.
Correct.
But as a property owner directly adjacent, my husband and I own lot 16. It absolutely will affect the property value. And as somebody who made an investment in 2 of the Harvey's Peninsula lots, I do think it is important for that reason.
I would agree.
But I do want to just leave you with, and if I could just pass it on to somebody that does give us, something that does give a summary of how I think you will come to find most of the residents on the peninsula feel. There are, by the way, about 152 properties on the peninsula. In terms of my personal testimony on behalf of my husband Ken and I would like to say that we were here in 2012, the last time an exception was granted, as I'm sure Mr. Nichols remembers. And some of the same things that I heard him say tonight were said to us at that same one, what was it now, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. I distinctly remember the promise that traffic would go down because those Glendale buildings would not be used. I don't think that happened. I think those, as from the testimony we just heard, those Glendale buildings continue to be used. And so the traffic that we see on the peninsula, being there every day, did not decrease 12 years ago. As a matter of fact, if anything, it's increased too. Remember, it's not only the boatyard that has traffic there, it's also been an increase in visitor and tourists and renters. That road can get quite busy. And that sharp curve, that blind curve, as you all saw, is of tremendous concern to all of us. I personally have been in situations before 2012 and since 2012 where that cross the road traffic of the boatyard has been problematic, both for cars and for residents. And while I appreciate Mr. Nichols saying that he's just trying to look to maintain his customer base, he can't guarantee that in the future there won't be increased boat usage and boat storage. The traffic did not decrease in the last 12 years. There's no assurance that it's not going to increase from here on. Some other things that I really think that are important is something else that he said tonight that was also said to us in 2012 was that the property would be maintained, that the trees would grow. We'd hardly see it. Unfortunately, they've had trouble with some of those trees along Harvey's Peninsula. They've chopped some down. They are not doing very well, many of them. So it is quite clear that we can see the boatyard from the road. There are definitely parts of the boatyard that are in disrepair now. One of the I don't know if it's a shed or a working area that's on the lake side. If you look in the back side of the building, has boats that have been punched through, probably because they're growing in size, as he said. But they've not been repaired in the time that they've become dilapidated. There's some a door on one of the buildings that's not been maintained. There are other things that are just messy. It's a boatyard after all, it's a working boatyard. So I'm a little concerned when I hear promises again that we won't see it, because we do. I also understand the need in business to make some good decisions, monetary decisions, and not tearing down the buildings on an already established property. I can understand the expense of it. But the request in asking to save expense there, while my property value goes down, does not seem to be quite fair. And I would imagine other property owners on the peninsula are going to echo that as well. We did submit a letter to you, and I apologize, I'm a little nervous right now, which I'm not usually, my husband can tell me, but I'm really passionate about what's going on, because I do feel that some of the promises that we were made in 2012, I heard them again tonight, and they were not maintained. So I'm a little upset by that. But in terms of some of the other things that we are concerned about, that blind curve has to be taken into consideration. There is an increased traffic there. There is an increase in the number of boats that are being worked on in that work area. As you know, it straddles the road. So it's quite common to see boats being worked on right there next to the road, boats crossing the road on the forklift. The forklift, which can barely be seen sometimes because the sun is coming into your eyes, or the weather is bad, or simply you're watching to make sure that truck isn't coming out while the forklift comes out of the road. That's been an instance that I've been involved in almost. The environmental concern on a portion of the lake that is already deemed to be one of the most problematic water portions of the lake in terms of algae bloom, pH level, and other things, to have increased potentially chemicals go into that part of the lake is of definite concern. I guess those are the most of the things that I wanted to say, but I do truly ask that you consider all of those comments that are in that survey that I just gave you, and to give strong consideration to somebody who was here in 2012, that the same issues, and I've given you a copy of the letter that I wrote in 2012,
So,
the same issues are going on today. So thank you.
thank you. Sir, I believe you were next. Did you raise your hand to testify?
I did.
Yes,
I
okay.
did.
Okay, get you-
Mike's too short.
Sorry, Matt.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Matt Dugan, and we live at 510 South Shore Road. And we also have property in Barbie Estates.
Great. Do you
And
solemnly
when I
swear?
say we, my wife Tanya, who couldn't be here tonight, and me.
Very good. Perfect example why we thought it was important for us to get the testimonies in this evening, so,
Yeah.
as opposed to just postponing everything.
Appreciate that.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give in this application for special exception for Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning and Appeals be the truth? So you swear or affirm?
I do.
All yours, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board. I was impressed that you drove to the site and took a look at it. My wife and I bought a lot in that, on the peninsula in 1999 and built a house there. And in our view, we had been in Green Glade for most of the time. That is the peninsula. You know, there's still a lot of old cabins. It's a lot of year-round people. And I think it's really the heart of the lake. So I hope when you saw Bill's Service Center, you took a little loop and drove through the development, because it's very nice development. I have a couple of points I think I'd like to make today. And probably one of the big ones is that a forklift is very different from a trailer. And personally, having a boat on a trailer being driven out and to Glendale is nowhere near as big a deal as Judy alluded to with the forklifts. I mean, I'm in the construction business, and blind areas on construction equipment is notoriously the cause of many accidents. And if I was more prepared, I would have brought you a site map showing that forklift and showing you what the blind areas are. There are blind areas on construction equipment like that. So the point I was making is it doesn't matter how far you move a boat, it's picking it up and putting it down that really matters, and that's really where the danger is here. So with Bob's proposal, that's not going to change, the picking up and putting down. The other thing I'd like to point out is we're Americans, we're a throwaway society, but I don't like it. And it rankles me that we leave these behemoth old structures standing and build new. It's like the mobile home that gets placed in front of a dilapidated house. It's not right. It's better to put the money in your existing, in my opinion, in your existing investment and keep it looking good for the community. This is a vacation area, right? We attract people here. I think the third thing I'd like to say is I also was in the hearing in 2012. Was it really that long ago? And I know it may not carry any weight, but Phil Moritz's tagline as he left is, I am not building any more buildings on that property except one, and that's going to be my home. Those were his words. So I have 6 grandchildren. They spend a lot of time with us at the lake, and I am concerned for their safety. Thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Spear. I live at 190 South Shore Road.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony you're about to give to the Deep Creek Lake Watershed Board of Appeals to be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir.
background, we bought our property, our home on South Shore Road in 1985. Initially, we rented it out to vacationers while we were camping, used it ourselves, particularly in the wintertime. Transitioned slowly into using it more and more, and then decided to enlarge it and make it a permanent home and retire there. So we finished that in 2006. So we've been permanent residents of that property since 2006. I've seen all of this for a very long time. The building, the construction of the buildings that were put up in 2012, and now looking at the proposal for additional buildings. And I have several objections to it. One is that, and this is all here, I was not at the hearing in 2012, so I only know of that hearing from hearsay. But essentially, what I understand is that there were promises about the screening and vegetation being put up to prevent people from seeing them. But well, that's not true at all. I mean, when I drive off I have some pictures that I'll share with you. I sent this to you also in email, so you may already have seen them. I printed them out in color so you may get a better idea. But particularly, there's one of the buildings that's on the lakeside of the property, and I see that every time I drive by, and I really feel sorry for the people that own the property right next to it, because it is completely dilapidated. You know, and there's all this pieces of siding. It looks like it really looks poor. It's a complete eyesore, and it's not screened at all. When I drive back onto the peninsula, I see one of the new buildings on the right-hand side, and I have a picture of that too, where for quite some time now, the doors have been hanging off its frame. It's just completely falling down, and nobody wants to fix it. Oh, and again, that whole side of that structure is not screened at all. So maybe this time will be different, and they'll screen the stuff, but I don't have a lot of confidence in that happening. A lot of the points have really already been made, so I don't want to necessarily repeat everything. I would say that the traffic situation is, and everybody mentions the traffic. I think there's also a problem with getting, that is such a tight curve around that blind curve that the difficulty of fire equipment in and out of it, I think is a challenge. We've had a couple of times when the road was blocked for extended periods of time trying to get pieces of equipment past it. And it's not the fault of the Bills Marine Service, but I think the fact that the business is there, and if it's increased business, which I think is going to happen, is a concern. Now, Bob mentioned that the size of you can store the smaller boats up on Glendale Road and this larger boats that you want to put in. I'm not sure. I was trying to remember while this other testimony was going on about the forklifts. They used to be using, it seemed to me, a lot of the smaller forklifts that took those smaller boats. You know, 12 feet, 14 feet runabouts. And now the forklifts are huge, humongous pieces of equipment. They carry these big, 24-foot pontoon boats and such, and big. Some of those boats, I don't know why they're not on the Chesapeake Bay, really. But anyway, that's a different story. They're all within the lake regulations, but they're huge, and I think they're dangerous. Now, you come around that curve, and I try to drive it really carefully, but there's a lot of people that don't, and may not be familiar with it. Maybe they're weekend people, and they're coming in fairly fast. It takes a lot longer for a truck pushing that great big, with that big fork and a huge boat on it to cross the road. So the road is actually tied up for a considerably longer period of time as that thing slowly. And I think it's hard to see people come upon it very quickly. And I think the traffic is just a huge thing. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to particularly mention. I also just wanted to mention, this is something that I noticed. I don't know, you have to live on the peninsula to see it, but there's twice a year, certain seasons of the year in the spring, fall, when as the sun is going down in the west, as you come around that curve, you are blinded. If you're the driver, you're absolutely blinded by the sun for, briefly, a few seconds, right? But it's still there. And if that's exactly when one of those boats is crossing the road, you have a problem, And I've encountered that myself. And it's, so I don't want to increase that possibility. I just don't. You know, when we talk about the amount of, all of these new buildings, you're still gonna have to take the boat in and out of the storage and cross that Harvey Peninsula Road to get to the boat launch. I mean, there's no decrease in that traffic. You know, I'm not really worried about the traffic that's going down Harvey Peninsula Road as it goes back past Waterfront Greens. That doesn't cause a problem, right? That really doesn't. They can go up to Glendale. That doesn't cause a problem. The problem is right there in the service area, and it's from those new buildings cutting across the service area as traffic is coming by. I just think that's a problem. And finally, I would just say that there's a reason why this is being asked for as an exception. It's an exception because this is a residential community. If it was a business and industrial park, you might still have some concerns about traffic. You might still have concerns about safety, right? You might have concerns about environmental things. All of those are still true if it was in the Northern Industrial Park or something. But the reason that you're coming in for a special exception is because it is a residential community. Let's keep it a residential community. That's the idea. That's why the regulation is in place. So I offer you that.
Mr. Spears, thank you. Thank you for being on point and staying to those that are pertinent. I'll make one comment about your final statement there. It is listed as a special exception. That's a bit of a misnomer because it is a permitted use by special exception. There are things that are not permitted at all, and those require a variance. So we hear.
Oh, a special exception, which is different than a variance.
Correct.
I didn't know that.
Correct. So it's listed in the ordinance as a permitted use by special exception. And by that, it's inherent upon us to listen to testimony. We can
Exercise your good judgment.
we can put stipulations in and go about those things.
In color here.
Thank you. One other thing I'll say to the entire group about special exceptions also is that by being a permitted use, what is incumbent, not totally, but within the ordinance law of the state of Maryland, it must be proven that this is the worst spot that this exception could be possibly made in the county. And that's the ordinance. There, you all have made very good points, and we'll continue to listen to every one of them. There are points that need to be addressed by the appellant as well, so it's not a rubber stamped issue whatsoever. But I did want to point that out because we...
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Worst to whom?
That
No, I'm asking
that is a question that comes up many times. Worse in the broader scope of community. One moment, please.
Let me just clarify that a little bit. Special exception means it is an approved use unless it can be proven that in this location it is worse than any other location in the zoning area, which means it's allowed. And what the board can do is put stipulations on its permission to be there, which if you looked in our ordinance, the zoning ordinance, it would state things like screening, which could be fencing or vegetative screening, such as it would typically be asked that it be evergreen so that it's screening year round. It would speak to noise, times of operation, and lighting that should always, in our ordinance everywhere, be inward and or downward as opposed to lighting out toward the public. It would also be able to limit things like hours of operation so that loud noise isn't happening after 10 o'clock, and that would be more pointed toward a Comar rule. So that's basically how that outlines.
A can of worms with my wording, so I appreciate it. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Sir, come up, please. Ask you to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Joe Duffy, 383 South Shore Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Do you
I re-
solemnly swear
Yes, I
to
solemnly.
the testimony you're about to give in this application for special exception with the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning and Appeals to be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I've been coming down here since 1960. There was a marina there, it was called Boat Haven. It's a small little marina. And since that period of time, my parents had a home on South Shore Drive. I own a home on South Shore Drive. I have seen so much progress on this lake, including Harvey's Peninsula. I think we need to give some consideration. I don't hear anyone talking about the association on Oak Way. They have 42 docks right across from the property that this prospective, these areas that they want to build. So right across the street, there's two entrances. It's an association that has docks down on the lake. That's right across from this property. As you very well know, that's where your zoning sign was up. So I think that needs to be considered, because you have a lot of people walking from Oak Way. There's quite a bit of homes back there. I think it's approximately 42 homes. You see a lot of people walking down to the area to get to their docks. And the road's not that wide, and they're walking on the side. Now we're gonna have forklifts, which I've driven, and I know they don't stop on a dime and the weight shifts. So if they ever do have to stop, you hit the brakes, the weight shifts, they're not tied down. The boats aren't tied down, the weight of the boat is holding it. So if they have to make an abrupt stop, the boat's gonna possibly come off the forks. Yes, they've got longer over the years. I think we need to just look at this situation thoroughly. I don't understand how the traffic is gonna be less. I agree with everything that's been said here. I know when I drive out or come in, I pause coming around the turn, knowing that the forks are coming out. We have a lot more rental houses in the community. People fly on the roads, as you probably very well know, and we have a lot of youngsters walking down the road to Harbor Association. I don't know if anyone's here from Harbor Association. I'd like to have them speak, because I think they have the same concerns that I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
You go.
Yes, please. Good evening.
Hello,
Hi, may I have your name and address for the record,
my
please?
name is Kathleen Bills, and I live at 841 Harvey's Peninsula Road. I'm 4 houses up from Bills.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the application for a special exception before the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals to be the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much.
I agree with everything that everyone had proposed here. As far as the traffic, we live it on a daily basis. But I'm here as a member of the Harbor Community Association, of which there's 36 members. And we have 36 docks down on the lake. We're a small organization, we have a small budget. And several years ago, we had a drainage problem coming down off of Harvey's Peninsula, running down our road. And we spent a lot of money to get that straightened out and to stop that. We don't have the budget to fix this again when the drainage comes off of these buildings and down that road and down our little road. We don't have that kind of budget. So who is gonna help us out? Is the county gonna help us out? Or is Bill's gonna help us out? Because the water coming off of those 6 roofs, even though you have a plan going, the water's gotta go somewhere, and it's gonna go straight down to the lake, and it's gonna go straight down our driveways. So this is, and the other thing is the people traffic. As this gentleman, he was just saying, there's a lot of runners, a lot of dog walkers, a lot of bicyclers that go around that corner. it's just a matter of time before somebody gets hit and gets hurt seriously. And the other thing is when you come down that curve that they're talking about, and they're coming around with a boat, you have young men, I'm sorry, they're probably well-trained, but they come flying around there with a boat behind that truck. I got a little car, and there's been a few times when I've been pushed off because they cut that curve too narrow. So, and the other thing I wanted to ask you was years ago, Bill's, you used to be able to store the boat there and you call and say, I'll be there over the weekend when you take my boat out and put it in the water. Do you do that anymore?
Occasionally, a couple customers.
We'll address that during rebuttal, if you don't mind, please, rather than speaking between you.
All right, so, I thank you. I thank you. Mainly ours is the water situation, and how we're gonna deal with it as an association when it happens, and it is gonna happen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, my name is Ralph Biltz. I live at 841 Harvey Peninsula Road, Swanton, Maryland, 21561.
Mr. Biltz,
My wife.
do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give in this application for a special exception for the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning and Appeals is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
In my previous life, I was environmental safety administrator for Emerson Electric, United States and Canada. So all this is not new to me. I thought I would share some things with you here concerning. I won't take long, I have four points to cover. Where once stood the serenity of birds chirping and the sweet smell of a beautiful lake, now stands a reminder of why we once wanted to move out of the cities and into the country. Wildlife, aquatic life, is slowly giving way to the loss of streams and being replaced by sounds of metal, boats being scraped across steel beams. This is all the time. The NPDES permit, the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System regulations for marinas, is very strict and are in place to reduce where possible, eliminate discharges of polluted water and other runoff. This also applies to the cleaning of boat bottoms. The entire entity encompassing Bill's Marina should be evaluated. Make sure you're in compliance. What we once wanted to pass on to our children is being reduced to industrial sprawl. The additional 6 more boat storage sheds is going to add the additional impervious structures and could be in violation of the Clean Water Act. And also the Soil Water Pollution Prevention Plan. Now those of you who don't know what the NPDES is, it's a way to make sure that any runoff coming off of the building does not make it to the lake or other streams. And the threat of fire is dramatically increased due to the very tight bend in the Harvey Peninsula Road, limiting the access, the easy access of fire trucks and other apparatus, and the lack of fire hydrants to fight the immense fire should one or several of the docks or several sheds catch fire. The above mentioned tight curve makes it practically impossible for the residents to escape said fire, which would result in possible loss of property and, more importantly, the loss of life. That is a bad curve right there. I know you didn't put it there, but it's there. We have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. And like I said to you, there are no fire hydrants there. We watched the building across was burned down to nothing. There's no fire hydrants there. There are no tankers close by. These storage sheds contain a lot of boats, a lot of gasoline. As a safety officer for Emerson Electric, I've seen the destruction of such things happen here, and you can't control it once it starts up. So we have children, grandchildren, in my case, great-grandchildren, and you know, we really don't want to lose everything to the storage of some boats and some money for somebody. Okay? Now, Bill's been a good partner to us as far as maintaining our boats for us when we ask him to. Okay? And we're not in the lake, we get stuck. Come rescuing us. But this is something we got to consider with open mind here, and we cannot allow this to go because it's just too devastating and too much of a risk to take with all children living there and being trapped by fire we can't get out of. And I've seen big storage facilities like this catch fire in my former job. So there you go. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to make comments? Come right up, please, ma'am. Good evening.
My name is Mary Helen Spear, and I'm at 190 South Shore Road, Swanton. You heard from my husband earlier.
Great. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the application for a special exception for the Deep Creek Lake Watershed Zoning Appeals Board to be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I have just a couple of things to say. One is, people have talked about renters and stuff, and I guess second homeowners, but Harvey's Peninsula is also a neighborhood. There are many full-time residents there. And in contrast to other areas around the lake, we are a neighborhood of people who live here all the time. Therefore, I'm coming and going constantly during the day, the Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 o'clock time period. And I do run into waiting for boats to be taken across. It's a constant in my life. And it's a constant in the life of all the full-time homeowners who live here. Also, it's a residential area, and it's already an eyesore to see these big, huge buildings. And yeah, in 2012, we had more of the buildings. And what I don't understand from the testimony we heard is they want to build more, but they're not going to store more boats. So what's going to happen with the existing buildings? This is not making sense. Also, they are in disrepair, and they're big eyesores. And even the new buildings from 2012, they're not covered with any greenery. They're just huge industrial-looking buildings that we see all the time in our neighborhood. So I don't understand why they don't fix what they have. Somebody had said earlier, fix what you have. Don't add to it and say you're going to have the same number. That doesn't make sense. How do you add buildings? Are you going to leave the existing ones empty? This isn't making sense. But we're destroying a neighborhood that is our home for many of us, our full-time permanent home for many of us. Thank you.
Anyone else, please? Been so patient back there letting everyone get up.
Catch a lot more flies with sugar than you do vinegar.
Sometimes.
My name is Bob Dave. I live at 1107 Harvey's Peninsula Road, Swanton, 21560.
Thank you, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this case before the Deep Creek Lake Watershed Zoning Appeals Board to be the truth?
I do. Thank you. Well, I've heard all of the testimony about the aesthetics, the traffic, the dangers, the bicycles, the people walking and all of that stuff. But I think we need to concentrate on the environmental issues. I was president of Harbor Community Association back whenever the S hit the fan about the runoff off of Harvey's Peninsula Road down through some property and then under an easement that we have down across the buffer strip and into the lake. Well, we were actually involved in a project where we were to remediate that problem. Well, we made an attempt in 2011 to do so. Well, whenever that project was finished, it did not stand up to what the lake management people wanted. So then in 2012, we had to go back and redo the project, which involved riprap down over the buffer strip and, as Kathy explained, a large expense. The initial expense that we did in 2011 was around $1,500, I believe. In 2012, we ended up spending $5,000 additional dollars to make this right. Well, I know for a fact that those buildings and the roadways that they're going to be building on the property in question is not going to be impervious to water. So unfortunately, gravity works and water flows downhill. And the association property where this water is going to have to go is going to be underneath our easement and down across the buffer strip. Now, like I said, we were aware of the situation in 11. We took measures to correct it, which lake management deemed insufficient, and we went ahead and redid all of that. Now, the amount of work that we put into this, I know that it will not support that additional runoff of the buildings and the roadways over there. And I believe, and I'm not sure, I'm not an engineer, nor do I profess to be one, that if we don't disturb the existing property that we're talking about here, that theoretically, and I would say technically, we're not going to increase the runoff. But if we do add these buildings and this roadway that they're going to use to access in and out of these buildings, we definitely are going to increase that runoff. So I think the aesthetics and the traffic and all that stuff, albeit is very important, but I think we owe it to the lake and to the environment to make sure that we understand what's going to happen. Now, whether you as a board can make recommendations to put settling ponds or whatever they call it, water gardens, I guess.
Stormwater management.
Yeah.
And that'd be way beyond our purview, but it is part of the process.
So I think that those are the kind of things that the board needs to consider. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? All right. Bob will give you a chance to rebut. I saw you taking a lot of notes there, so you got.
I guess first, Judy, it has totally decreased. We had 198 boats we used to store at the fairgrounds. Well, we don't have truck traffic and trailer traffic because we've been done that 12 years, so it did decrease. I'm not sitting there with a count on what's coming and what's going, what it may be, but it's definitely decreased traffic by doing that. And again, I'm gonna take boats that were being stored up there, there's not gonna be road traffic and trailer traffic. I'm not gonna say the forklift traffic's gonna change, it isn't. But to some degrees it is, because we're not gonna double handle that boat, having to pull back out and put it on a trailer. Once we put it away, it's away. So it's one time going across the road, instead of going across the road, pulling up with the trailer, come back down across the road and loading it up. It is gonna decrease. Without having a counter there, I really can't prove it to you, but it is there. You made mention about trees and stuff. We've never cut anything down over there. That had to do with the power company, okay? It did, yeah. And if it was something that fell over and we cut it up, okay, so be it. I mean, that's just to get rid of it. But a lot of the power company, I know right away, some of the trees were dead, they were marked, they were cut down. We didn't do that. I agree, the buildings, the capital improvements, it's never ending. I get a good windstorm, all of a sudden that one of those doors is hanging whatever way because it gets underneath the crack. I agree with you folks. It kills me. I'll give my best to do what I can from an expense standpoint, especially the buildings in particular, those doors gotta be shut. I mean, people are paying for inside storage. You know, there's been several times this company that I do use, Core Construction, come down and done some major repairs. Am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. You guys are making some valid points. Yes, 2 boats sitting in the back, it kills me as much as it kills you. It's a lot of, again, finding the time to get it done, the expense of cutting out an engine, degassing, etc. That's part of it. I'm working on it. I would love to have a picture perfect place down there. But again, the capital improvements, it's financially, it can be extremely hard to do and capitalize all in one point. Matt, I agree with you. I mean, forklifts, I've seen it, I do it. My guys should be having spotters with them. I agree with you 100%. I will do my best to improve it at least. Huh?
It's OSHA, you have to.
I understand that, yeah.
It's not being done.
Okay, I will police it the best I possibly can. I don't, obviously.
Crossing that road.
Sir,
Yeah,
sir,
I understand.
the testimony part is done right now.
Yeah, I understand. I agree with you. Safety, you know, when coming around that blind bend, I know it, I see it, I feel it. I come with my truck and sometimes it happens. Maybe I'm not amiss to pitching in with the county to do better signage there, whatever it may be, to have somebody slow down and caution. I know we posted some signs, truck traffic, etc. I agree with that. Maybe a mirror up on the corner. And I agree with you on the structures. I don't want those buildings up on Glendale to sit there forever. If we get it worked out, I'd like to tear them down, level it off. I don't know what I'll do with the property, but I'm with you 100%. I hate it as much as you do. Again, it's budget, what money I have to do whatever. And right now, the expense of tearing those down, I would never be able to accommodate it. And Judy, you did make mention, no, I can't promise you that my boat traffic or my storage is gonna come up. That's not my intentions right now. I don't see it, because over the past several years, it's been very stagnant, and if anything, it's gone down some degree. Right now, I don't have the staffing to be able to take anymore, because I will not perform to the level that I really truly need to perform to if I keep taking everybody on. And I got everybody screaming and yelling at me, and they're gonna be disappearing. But I can't promise you, that's not my intention. Mr. Spears, the forklifts have gotten bigger because the boats have gotten bigger by the manufacturers. They just get heavier in the capacity on those plates. It's just, I have to. I don't have a choice. I can't pick them up, I can't move them. I would love to be able to have a smaller forklift, a lot less expensive than what I pay for, but that has to be with the industry wide. Again, you hit on the sun, that blind curve seems to be a glaring issue with everybody. I concur. I don't know what we can do on that from the county roads department, but I'm open for anything. Mr. Duffy, we really shouldn't have forklifts coming beyond that driveway. Occasionally we do take care of some of the neighbors in the property that they don't want to haul it, whatever, so we'll put it on the forklift and we'll put it in their yard or something of that sort. If somebody's cruising down Harvey's further beyond that entry level, call me. It really shouldn't be happening. I don't know, that's what it sounds like. We're taking our forklift all the way down. Now, I will say the Harbor Association, we do the docks, so we're gonna have to address that. I would agree with you. That we pull the docks out of our one facility and take it down to the Harbor Association, put it on the sideline. I'll have to work with you on that part. That's a bone.
She's the president.
Okay, if it's a bone of contention, I understand. Mr. Mispill, drainage, I've heard that too. Again, whatever stormwater management requires me to do, I'll do. the boat bottoms and the drainage and runoff, we do have a catch basin. Our primary, we have a holding tank that runs from our one facility where we do the bulk of it. That is pumped out periodically and taken away to the disposal site. Every solvent we use is environmentally safe. We do not touch any boats that have anti-filing paint on it, just because it's not worth the issue and it's very hazardous to the environment. We don't have one boat, nor would I take a boat, or would I bottom wash a boat. Fire, I addressed everything with I agree with you, it's a petroleum-based product. You know, I have got what I am required to do. We have heat detectors in every one of the buildings, a monitoring system that I get calls in the middle of the night. They automatically dispatch the fire department. We're abiding by what the local fire marshal and state fire marshal require. I guess that's about it, but I still want to explain that my goal is not to fill those buildings up on windows. It just doesn't make sense. There's the four that I need to replace. That's why I'm doing this. They're old. I can't fit the boats in them anymore. I am not going to be, it's 100 or 283 different passages that I'm not sending a truck, a trailer, and a driver out there. I'm not taking a forklift on the road to get out there to get them unloaded. It is going to decrease if I'm permitted to build these buildings. It is.
Are those buildings on there going to sit empty forever?
For the time, no sir, that's not my intention. I can assure you that. I told Matt, that's not my intention. I'm OCD about stuff like that. But I got a big operation. It'll be in the pipeline. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, whether I tear them down, reclaim it, leave it flat. I don't know at that point. Tackle one object at a time. Just from an expense standpoint, it makes much better sense to build these buildings and then tackle that down the road.
Is it this committee's job to worry about what it expense?
No, and I agree with that.
He's got a property on Glendale that's already got sheds on it. I know you don't want to hear from me.
No, we have to stay.
Sir, please don't address each other. The applicant, please just address the board. And if you want to speak after Mr. Nichols done, we can have it open again. Okay?
That's all
please.
I say. My intentions eventually are to remove the structures. Where in the time frame, I don't know. Can't do everything at once, but that is truly my intentions. I'm keen about appearance, being a neighbor, etc. And I implore anybody to pick up the phone if there are issues and call me. I'm not going to not call you back. It's not my blood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so testimony is now completed on this.
Hey, Mr. Ingram, under section 157.168, which is the notice of hearing, I think that we need to leave the testimony open and send the legal notice out again. It's a 15-day requirement with the time, date, and place. And since the current legal notice was deficient, I think we need to just hold this hearing in abeyance until next month and then resume testimony if someone wishes to testify. If not, then close it.
Hear a motion on that one?
Just a question to Bruce. Does that sound?
I believe that would be the best course, yes.
Okay.
So if anyone didn't hear what Michael was saying or understand what we were saying, within the ordinance it's addressed that we need to give a 15-day notice of proper location. And as we stated at the beginning of the hearing, we did want to be as considerate of your time and your efforts to be out tonight to allow you to testify. We'll be posting a notice for another hearing to have additional people arrive and give their testimony and comments at that time, and arrange for Mr. Nichols to be here as well.
Can we ask that that meeting or that next meeting be on the weekends so that people that have full-time jobs on?
Generally, we stay within the business week.
The zoning appeals meetings are always held on the third Thursday of each month at 7 p.m.
Well, it's excluding a lot of people. And
Well, it gives you, that's why we are required to give the advance notice, and we actually give it more than is required typically. In this situation, it was wholly my mistake that misrepresentation was
How
given.
about if we got a petition? We got a petition and signed among people on Harvey's, the whole Harvey Peninsula, their concerns, and have them presented at the next meeting.
That's possible. I mean, we have done that actually. We have a petition from Ms. Carbone that was signed electronically by, I believe, 49.
Well, I don't know what the exact number of people that have homes and residents on Harvey's Peninsula.
Well, I don't either, but we did give, they certainly had plenty of notice to be a part of the petition and or send a letter.
If they were on Facebook.
If they were on Facebook.
If they were on Facebook.
Well, pardon me, it was also advertised twice in the Republican, and it was posted at the property, which are the requirements.
I
Okay.
understand that. I stopped.
But you are going to have that extra 30 days from now for them to all have a chance to weigh in. And they can forward all of those emails of comment to me at my bmetz@garrettcounty.org address. And I've provided all those letters that came in currently. There were 19 of opposition. One of your neighbors was in favor of. And those were all provided to the board for consideration. And and these future ones will as well. And to Mr. Nickel, now that you know some of the concerns, you actually have that extra 30 days now to maybe address some of that too. So,
Can you entertain some questions on the process?
possibly. I'll do my best.
All right, so just one question that I have. Many of our concerns, I'm fearful, are going to be seen as, well, the business is already there, it's already got property, there is no worse place in the county for these boat sheds. My concern is, as the business has grown, and we heard tonight, the size of the boats have grown, the size of the forklifts have grown, the size, things are different. The zoning exceptions that were granted decades ago for a smaller, what was the name of the
It was Boat Haven.
Boat Haven, originally that was there,
That was
and then the
fine.
zoning exceptions that were granted for a smaller, I just don't understand how our concerns with the growth of the business and continuing to grow, even maybe not in customers, but certainly in size, in scope, in impact.
Where does it stop?
I guess, and I wonder how much is that considered by the zoning appeals board? Because the business is already there, doesn't mean it's the same as when it used to be given an exception. Do you see what I'm saying? So can you tell me
I don't
about
know
how
for
that
certain
consideration would be
about
made?
Boat Haven, but I'm guessing that it was there prior to the zoning ordinance period.
It was in the 60s, early
Right.
60s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 1975
Yeah.
is the,
But my point is, because the business is there now, and zoning exceptions were given when things were different. Now, is it just gonna be that, well, because this business is already there is no worse place, that is the best place?
I would
Let it
say
keep
to
going.
you that I think that boating marinas as a whole have been accepted as a part of life at the lake in general. And I don't think, based on my short time here, which has been 5 years, that they've deemed any place more or less impacted by it in the Deep Creek watershed. So my point is that probably your location is not any more impacted than any other.
So how does that impact the zoning ordinance?
It does.
It's not clear.
It's basically stating that the marinas are allowed by special exception, as I stated earlier, and that the things that they can do about it is put requirements on them for screening, some of the aesthetics, maybe that the colors of the buildings are earth tone so they blend into the landscape, lighting, time of operation. Those are all your issues. To speak to some of the other issues that were brought up, MDE, the Maryland Department of Environment, they're more stringent now than they ever have been. Mr. Nickel would have to gain their approval at that location, and he would have to provide to them information about how he intends to dispose of and contain any kind of toxic chemical and fluids. From the stormwater management point of view, same thing. The Department of the Environment is more involved in that than they've ever been as well. They don't want anything going into that lake untreated, and I can tell you that anybody that's building a new home on the lake today will tell you what, just with a house, what they have to go through to treat the water that's coming off their roof. Has to be treated before it can move on. So a home may be required to have a 6 foot by 15 foot by 5 foot wide pit filled with gravel that all that roof water gets piped into, and it has to go into there and then dissipate slowly into the water table from there. And the idea is that anything like asphalt and so forth that would be maybe letting some toxic chemical off is going to go into there and be captured and treated before it goes further. And then lastly, the fire marshal will also have to inspect and review all those plans and approve whatever's being done there as well.
In these proposed plans, is there evidence for this water mitigation?
We are at a very initial stage, and that's why I wanted to try to give you more information, because this is strictly a zoning hearing. We're not looking at any of those other issues. If Mr. Nickel gains this approval, he'll have to go through all of those other steps. And all of that stuff is engineered too. It's not going to be something that he can write up. It'll be from an engineering company.
Bruce, I guess the question of process.
I feel like I'm testifying
I
now.
do appreciate the explanation, because I guess I know probably should look at the ordinance, because I asked maybe assumption that lake residential meant residential, and obviously an exception includes storage buildings. However, I think it was a very definitive covenant that restricts this lot. So perhaps, again, if this board is successful, and maybe, Bob, we should probably talk about that, but if there is a restrictive covenant that legally would impair construction of this storage buildings, in that this is a lot that is restricted by an HOA.
And that would
this,
be determined.
This board is aware of that.
Yeah, but it can't have any impact upon us. That's nothing that we can take into effect, because that is.
That's a legal matter.
That's a legal matter, yeah.
That's a.
But it is a clear roadblock for the applicant that probably.
Well, I will say that if the appellant is awarded approval, there's a 30-day period before of any reversal could happen within that 30 days. If Bob, and I think he's aware of it, he were to decide, okay, I've been approved, and start ripping and tearing and building, there's 30 days before that is legally approved, and any improvements or any changes that he has made in that time would be on his dime, and he'd have to reverse those. But that's not within our scope.
So you don't look at HOA covenants at all?
No.
Thank you.
For those, just to throw some more information out there, this is the Deep Creek zoning ordinance. And this is on the planning and zoning website. It's a PDF. And the section that we're talking about is Article 11, which governs the Board of Appeals, this board. And special exemptions, what we look at and what our authority in is in section 157.166, which is in the very back of it. It explains exactly what our authority is and what it is that we look at. So we're very limited on what we can do. If an applicant complies with the various requirements laid out in this section, they're entitled to a special exemption.
Exception.
Exception.
And that, and as to Mr. Metz's point, that's only one hurdle. There are many more checkpoints beyond us that have to be met as well.
Can I speak to your method of public notice on these subjects? I live back there full time. I never saw the sign on the tree until somebody pointed it out to me. It's dark. It's an area that is a high probability of deer crossing because the lot has been cleared as much as it has. And I would hope that if you're going to post again, you may look at visibility as a factor, because I can guarantee you that there are plenty of people that have driven by that sign. 152 residential lots in our neighborhood.
And not to discount your points,
never saw it.
Everything that is done to this point, and not to say that it's perfect, meets the requirements of all Maryland zoning law.
I understand that.
But your point is taken. I mean, it's pink paper that's only this big. Pink is supposed to grab your attention, I guess. I understand that.
And back from the road it is.
Mhm.
It could have been posted closer to the road.
Well, it's facing the road, so when you're driving by.
Yeah, actually, yes, it's facing the road and not facing the driveway.
I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
see it either until somebody went up into it.
I heard testimony that these sheds are closed in. That's what I thought I heard. And they're not. Or they're not closed in. When there's a storm with blowing water sideways, it's gonna run anywhere these boats are stored. Okay, they're not closed in.
Some of them are.
They're way more, some of them are.
The newer ones
are closed in. Majority of them are not.
Folks, and I understand that. We've got pictures. We were out on property, and all of your points are well taken. I will say that this goes beyond what we generally do at a hearing, but we're trying to be accommodating because you all were put out so much. Generally, Bruce doesn't hold class on special exemption law and then the rest of the situations. But I hope that you felt that you've been given a fair opportunity to speak up and be heard. And that's what the whole process is about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all for being a part of it.
Thanks. Motion to
Close it up.
Motion to adjourn.
Actually, I have some old business that,
What's going on?
Yeah. By statute.
let's close the meeting up first. Give me a minute. Stick with me for 1 second, okay?
You've done very well.
Old business.
I got some old business too.
Let's go ahead and close it. Go ahead and close it.
Okay. I had a motion and second. Meeting's adjourned.
It's good to see you, young man.
Need to get Chairman the gavel.
It's funny. It's funny. My dad asked me this evening,
Bruce, here's some stuff that I kept.
Give me one.
Still concentrate.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Robert.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming.
Misbehaving now?
Yes.
And getting away with it.
Hey, I get away with it too. If you get old like us.
That's it.
They say he's harmless, don't worry about